Jimmy Muyaha is leading the conversation all across South Africa right now. Stay tuned to SAFM.
Transnet has applied to the Minister of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment to potentially reclaim some land for the sea, or from the sea rather, in Durban to expand the Durban Port. We're going to be taking a look at this in a bit more detail with the Chief Executive Officer of the Southern African Association for Freight Forwarders, Dr. Juanita Maree. Dr. Juanita, lovely having you on the show. Thanks so much for taking the time. How much land are we looking at? How much of this land needs to be reclaimed from the sea?
Thank you. I haven't studied the master plan as yet, but I think it's a beautiful development because we need definitely the berth deepening and also then the berth lengthening, because we need to receive those big vessels into our shore, and that's very important in Durban.
Dr. Maree, the larger vessels, what do we typically use those for, and what strategic advantage would that then mean for the Durban port, not just from a South African perspective, potentially even from an African perspective?
Yeah, I don't think it's a desire from South Africa to have the bigger vessels. It has been driven by the 2 or let's say the 5 major shipping lines, because they tend to have bigger pack sizes. And the bigger pack sizes is for us important because we want regular sailings from them to come to South Africa. And we've got a very unique system because we have a port rotation system. We have vessels that go to the KwaZulu-Natal, then to the Eastern Cape and to the Western Cape. And I think that's very important why we want to do the berth deepening and the berth lengthening, because it will help us in our geographical location and to make sure that we can receive those bigger vessels.
Now, Dr. Maree, obviously in line with everything happening in the Middle East at the moment, the tensions around the Strait of Hormuz, this becomes a very relevant conversation to have at this point around the strategic benefits of establishing more port capabilities and more capacity for South Africa. You mentioned, of course, it's not just about the country and what we are able to benefit from, but if we are looking at potentially rerouting the world's freight from our perspective, this could be not only for Durban Port, for all of our ports, this could work.
Definitely. As I said, we haven't studied the master plan, but if we want to capitalize on the vessels that's going past Cape Good Hope, it's important to have empty berths, because then we can get the distressed vessels, we can help them. And then also what we can do, we as a country can offer the auxiliary service, which we need in our port environment. So I think it definitely, depending on how it's going to unfold over the next 5 years. And as you also know, it's in different phases. But for us, more importantly, is that if they do the deep berth, let's say the berth deepening and the lengthening, it needs to run concurrent with our land evacuation. Because if you look at Durban specifically, our terminal in the Gauteng can handle about 400,000 TEUs. Now, to make sure that we can handle much more on the rail network, we need to look at a new terminal and to help us. Because if we do a deep berthing and the lengthening, and our economy can grow as we anticipated, we must look broader than just the water side, if I can put it so simple.
Now, Dr. Maree, you mentioned the economy growing, and the estimates around this particular expansion could potentially add as much as $75 billion in annual exports. This would have a ripple effect, as you mentioned, on the inland abilities and capabilities of the economy. But it would also mean then that if we are looking to attract foreign direct investment, that could potentially be an avenue for foreign companies, local companies, to expand their South African footprint, understanding that they would be able to get things out internationally. I'm thinking about specifically areas like the automotive sector, where we have international manufacturers manufacturing here for international markets. That could have a ripple effect on jobs and everything else in between. Where are the risks here? How do we manage the risks, and what do the risks start to look like for this kind of expansion?
Yeah, your question is quite a detailed one. So let us start with the simple thing. I think we need to look at the cohesive system of the logistics. So that would be the water side, then the terminal, then how do we evacuate the containers out of the terminal. That will put then a very strong emphasis on our rail network between the KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng, and similar to the Eastern Cape and Gauteng. And I think then we need to come to a different debate to say that can our economy grow to the level that we want? Because currently we have 0.9%. And if we really want to capitalize on the berth deepening and berth lengthening, I think we need a growth of about 3 to 4 to 5% of the economy. And that fall back on what is our industrial policy. And can we capitalize on the industrial policy to help us with export competitiveness? So I think if we get all these building blocks in a good, cohesive approach, it's definitely a start of a new beginning in our logistics network. But let up with the last one, the logistics network cannot stand on its own because it needs to support the trade growth. So if there's not trade growth, then it doesn't really help us to expand a lot on the logistics side.
It is part of a bigger conversation, a conversation that looks at more of the value chain than simply expanding the ports. Well, Transnet has said that they're looking to invest about 125 billion rand in their operations and infrastructure over the next 5 years as they look to move from about 170 million tons of what they presently are able to deal with from a cargo perspective to about 250 million tons by 2030. We'll leave this conversation on that note. Thanks so much to Chief Executive Officer at the Southern African Association for Freight Forwarders, Dr. Juanita Maree, for joining us to take a look at Transnet's bid to potentially reclaim land in Durban for the Durban Port expansion.
SAFM Market Update with Jimmy Muyaha on SAFM.